Hello everyone, this is part 45 of What If Naruto Had a Hug That Changed Everything, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Sasuke, who was seated at a bench next to the entrance, carried the strange object that was given to him in an Uchiha clan backpack. With all genin in place, they all listened in on the conversation at hand. Nekoshi frowned at the old man, and just as Kitsune was about to say something, he waved his hand in front of her. Go ahead and finish your ice cream, babe. I'll talk to the dinosaur. The blue-haired woman frowned slightly but decided not to let some crusty old man ruin her frozen treat, so she went right back to it and took her time to savor the sweet taste. Alright then, GG. Let's talk, Nekoshi said in a seemingly nonchalant attitude. You really got quite the brass balls for showing your face back here, Nekoshi. Once everyone here finds out that you're still alive, what you've done and who you've been working and training under for the last 14 years, you'll be a wanted man in this village too, GG said. The white-haired warrior scoffed, surely you didn't come here just so you could talk about my admirable reputation, old man. Why don't you stop wasting both of our times and tell me the real reason why I'm wasting my breath on you, he said as he crossed his arms. I already told you, just sit here and talk to me, GG answered without a pause. I mean, it ain't like y'all got anything better to do, right? No one in particular that y'all lookin' there. Nekoshi silently squinted his eyes at the bald old man and Kitsune frowned as she tried to enjoy her ice cream. What the hell do a couple of well-accomplished shinobi like yourselves want with an innocent girl like Sasam? The old man questioned. At hearing this, Sakura nearly gasped, but held her breath and listened with even more attentiveness than before. It's no surprise that you knew we were chasing that little C, but why should I tell you anything, old man? Nekoshi retorted with an inward tilt to his head. GG chuckled, hey. Because I got something you need, he answered. At this, the leather-dressed rogue raised an eyebrow and Saint USD the old geeze's facial expression. Oh please, you really think that your mind games will work on me now? I've come a long way since before, GG, Nekoshi said with a confident smirk. GG stared at the surly fighter for a few moments, he. I can see that, son. But I really don't think you want to take the chance, he warned with that same easy-going, old man voice. After a brief stare-off between the two men, Nekoshi chuckled, very well then, old man. I'll pretend that I'm streetin' in my pants right now and tell you a little something, he said. All of the genin opened their ears and minds further and listened to what was about to be said. Before the Chunin exam finale, Sensei went to Oto, to regain his lost powers. The town was small and weak, and the strongest resistance he had were those pathetic Fuma clan members. He wiped them all out and feasted upon the town's population, Nekoshi described with a sinister smile. That's one town off the map. Sakura slightly turned her head to the direction of the trio, an entire population, gone, she inwardly questioned before focusing back on the conversation. However, there was but one survivor out of the lot. Before we went to dispose of that troublesome Ashima, Kitsune and I went to that town just to enjoy the aftermath and saw her. Sasam Fuma. At that time, we were well aware that Sandaime Sama's time was nearing its end, so we figured that we'd be able to use her for informative purposes, Nekoshi explained further. I'm afraid I don't follow, GG lied. Sigh, if the days turned to weeks and so forth, before a new cage was instated she could be our recon and tell us when the next Hokage will be instated and who in the flying hell it will be, the semi-brutish man said, so you see, once we find out who the Godime is, the only use she will have to us will be to satiate Kuro-sensei's hunger. At that last piece, Sakura and several other genin were blown away with shock. The pink-haired genin let out small gasp involuntarily. These two are Kuro's students, she inwardly questioned again, Sasam. Battlefield High no Kuni. The Fural Naruto traded the menacing Kuro a healthy dose of furious attacks. Unfortunately, it was deja vu in the worst way. Kuro was once again dancing around his foe, avoiding all of his attacks with ease. This time, He put in little to no effort to do this because of how loose he was from fighting the Sannin. The only thing that was different was the fact that Kuro wasn't smiling. He stared into Naruto's eyes throughout the assault and was already growing more impatient. Without even bothering to drag this on any more than it already has, the red-haired savage snatched upon Naruto's blonde hair in between one of the strikes and yanked him, face first, into the ground, pinning him there. Naruto struggled and grunted as he tried desperately to claw Kuro's face off, but couldn't reach him. I hate to be rude, child, but I think I've wasted more than enough of my time playing around with you, Kuro said before just barely lifting the boy's head off the ground. We can continue your true test another time. I'll end your pathetic resistance right now. With that, the F-eating beast bared his grueling fangs, and sunk them straight into Naruto's en. With a bone-chilling scream, the blue-eyed genin flailed around and tried to jerk himself free. The disgusting sound of gulping rung within Naruto's ears and he started to grow frightfully desperate to free himself. As his futile efforts continued, Naruto suddenly heard an eerily familiar voice inside of his head. And now, you share a glimpse of Yoshino's fate. A grand fury built deep within Naruto at being reminded of that, but at the same time, he could feel his strength waning greatly. He felt the entire left side of his body grow numb and limp. His eyes dimmed out and his breathing shallowed. It wasn't long before he passed out. Again, with no actual intention to kill him, Kuro released the boy before tossing him aside. Tsunade, who watched helplessly from the sidelines, cried out his name to wake him up, but he didn't move. Kuro stood in place for a couple of seconds before he detected something a bit wrong. Odd. I know the boy's weak, but I should have been able to gain at least a little bit of strength, he said as he tried to detect any augmentation to his powers. What could have gone wrong? It was at that exact moment that Kuro heard a familiar, poof, sound. He turned to the source and saw that Naruto was gone. A shadow clone. When did he? Tsunade exclaimed. Suddenly, the ground behind Kuro erupted and out from beneath it came a Rasengan wielding Naruto. Throwing his swirling sphere of chaos at his enemy, Naruto roared with animosity. However, with his superb reflexes and impossible speeds, Kuro timingly whirled around and slapped Naruto's hand down, thus launching the Rasengan into the ground. But, because of the sheer force of the attack, it was broken and scattered about the terrain, and severed it through and through. Kuro leaped back when several columns of earth launched into the air, but Naruto caught one of them. Without stopping for even a second, the fiery blonde charged at Kuro and rammed the rock column right into him. Absorbing the impact with his arms, Kuro forced the stone weapon aside only to have another Rasengan millimeters from his face. Time decelerated to an incredible rate as the baffled devil stared into the vortex of chakra. Perhaps I miscalculated that one just a little. SSHHHHRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRR outward, tearing into his F. After 3 brutal seconds of this, Kuro was sent flying back, thus flinging his katana out of his grip with his body engulfed in a bright spherical culmination of power before he crashed into a boulder. A large cloud of dust and debris burst out upon impact. With his hands still held out, a hyperventilating Naruto stared in the aftermath of his assault, waiting for it to clear. "Take that, you sick, twisted, F-eating freak," Naruto insulted in between his ragged breaths of air. Seeing what had just happened, Tsunade was absolutely speechless to the point of her mind going completely numb from the shock. Naruto had just used a fully developed Rasengan. She rose to her knees and stared at the boy with an incredulously surprised expression. The Rasengan he did it, Tsunade stammered, "It's impossible. He actually mastered that technique in a full week." A week. Naruto continued to hyperventilate as he felt that he had used up all of his remaining chakra to pull his little stunt. "Huff, huff, now I'm spent," the blue-eyed boy murmured in exhaustion. Naruto stared harder into the settling debris, searching for any sign of Kuro. In time, he saw what he wanted to see when the dust cleared, a motionless red-haired sadist face first in the dirt. Through his hyperventilation, a triumphant smile crept upon his face as he felt very proud of himself. Not even he expected to do what he just did. The still trembling Tsunade stared at the lifeless Kuro with eyes widened further than before. "Naruto, how did you The only response she received was a big goofy smile when he turned back to face her, just eager to take the win on that bet. Bar-chan, he said triumphantly. Not even able to crack a smile due to the ever-present shock, the hazel-eyed woman simply stared at the boy, but could feel a massive sensation of pride well up inside of her. After a while, she finally smiled, but closed her eyes in embarrassment as she held her end lace tightly. A rosy blush accompanied her face as she was about to willingly admit that she was completely wrong about the boy. However, as Naruto was about to walk toward his fellow blonde, he suddenly felt a rush of disturbance from behind him. With his danger senses going haywire, Naruto impulsively jumped in front of Tsunade with his arms extended outward. The blonde Sanon's eyes widened with surprise and confusion at this sudden action, but when she heard 5 slicing sounds, her heart stopped. It was like being penetrated by knives. Naruto remained perfectly still for a time and it was starting to scare Tsunade a little bit. Hey, what's wrong? She asked in a somewhat shaky voice. It was only when Naruto coughed and hunched over did Tsunade begin trembling again. Naruto. Upon his name being called, the boy fell over and revealed a bloody stained mouth to his fellow blonde before fully collapsing to the ground. Tsunade gasped in fear when she saw 5 bloody and circular wounds on Naruto's chest. The slug Sanon peered ahead of her and saw the unbelievable. Kuro holding himself up with one arm and the other one extended outward, his long and sharp fingernails gone from it. The only thing freakier about that was that fact that his face was a swirled and meshed collaboration of its former self. Like a walking death machine, Kuro rose to his feet without any trouble dangling his arms to his side. His posture was crooked with his screwed-up head tilted lazily to the side. After standing there for a few moments, the unyielding terror's face began to resonate. Thick steamy gases simmering took place. The swirl marks on his face began to glow a bright red, and the torn began to turn and churn. Tsunade watched in horror at Kuro's mind-bending regeneration. The swirl that was engraved into his face slowly undid itself as Kuro's features returned in a bloodly fashion. His eyes, nose, and mouth started off crooked and mispositioned until the monster took hold of his own face, manually cracking and snapping everything back in place. After that unearthly display of inhumanity, Kuro's entire posture straightened as his face was hurled back to its full and untouched nature. Taking in many ragged breaths of air to center himself, the widened-eyed Kuro's mind raced at a phenomenal rate. For the love of God, Naruto surprised him. He actually caught him off guard and managed to outmaneuver him. With his breathing centered and his focus back on the right track, Kuro idly searched for his missing katana before extending his hand outward. From the distance, came his malevolent blade, flipping and twirling through the air before lands safely in his GS. Crackling the joints in his end for the 3rd time that day, the Akatsuki warrior centered his attention on the downed Naruto from afar. He frowned deeply before whipping his sword through the air and briskly marching toward him and Tsunade. The blonde Kunoichi glared hopelessly at what she saw, cursing this seemingly unstoppable monster. Her inward and hateful curses were silenced, however, when Naruto coughed out a thick geyser of blood. Tsunade gasped before shooting to her feet and quickly approaching to the injured boy's side. She fell to her knees and carefully examined Naruto, noticing, all too well, the 5 bloody holes in his chest. Now focused on the problem aside from Kuro, she finally noticed how much blood was involved. But she knew that she had to focus or Naruto would surely Placing her fingers upon the blonde Genin's chest, Tsunade increased her efforts to cease her incessant trembling. Finally able to get a grip on herself, the hazel-eyed female seized her hand and used a small concentration of her chakra to sever Naruto's shirt in the chest area. Acting quickly, she focused even more of her chakra into both of her hands as she pressed her fingers against Naruto's chest, the artery pathways that were stopped by Kuro's nasty little fingernails. I have to get them out of him, Tsunade thought frantically. Surfing her chakra with his chest, Tsunade located the nails and carefully removed them out of the with her chakra. This, of course, only made Naruto cough up more blood, much to Tsunade's dismay and fright. She was able to stop even a single tremble from surfacing as she formed several hand seals and pressed both of her hands onto the boy's chest, making a shattering effort to slice him. I swear to God, Naruto, if you on me, I'll kill you. Damn it, I can't take this anymore, Shizune shouted, surprising all but Orochimaru, who just stared at her. I don't know if I'll be any help or not, but I'll never find out here. With that, the heated brunette took off in the direction of the unseen action. Neither of them could see what was happening, but one thing they could tell was that Kuro wasn't losing. In fact, it seemed like he had the upper hand throughout the entire ordeal. That alone was getting to Shizune the most. The idea of letting her master by that freak's hand while she sat back and did nothing was no longer acceptable. No, wait, don't do it, Kabuto called out before dashing after her, you'll only get yourself ked. As Kabuto sped off to catch Shizune, the still bound Jiraiya smirked proudly, well what do ya know, the kid did it, he though out loud. Orochimaru, also bound, still stared into the horizon with a weary expression on his face. That little pipsqueak, using a technique of that caliber, inwardly questioned. Even though they couldn't see a thing, the other Sannin were vastly more aware of the events than their underlings were. The most noticeable thing was Naruto actually pulling off the Yondaim's most powerful technique, proving that he had mastered it, a feat that took the greatest shinobi to ever grace Konoha with his existence 4 years to accomplish. Needless to say, that worried Orochimaru to quite an extent. Jiraiya frowned, I don't know how Naruto managed to pull it off and actually land it on Kuro, but it wasn't enough, that monster's as rock solid as ever, and Naruto's energy is drastically plummeting. I've got to get out of these damn restraints, he inwardly declared. Meanwhile, the sprinting Shizune could feel that she was getting very close to her destination. Just a few more feet and she'd be able to see them. As predicted, the brunette Jonin spotted the tiny forms along the horizon and her fears were confirmed. Naruto was down and Kuro seemed to have both his and her beloved master against the ropes. Glaring at the scene, Shizune increased her speed so she could arrive and help in whatever way she could. Unfortunately, Kabuto had other plans. Without warning, the silver-haired Otonin tackled Shizune to the ground and constricted his arms around her own to prevent her from moving. No, what are you doing? Let me go, Shizune yelled as she squirmed to get free, look. She's right there. I have to help her, let go of me. It doesn't matter. Listen, if you go there you'll only get in the way, Kabuto insisted as he struggled to maintain his restraining GS, the best thing you can do right now is to trust in Tsunade-sama. If we're going to survive this and walk away in one piece, we have to play by the rules. As much as she wanted to spit on that reasoning and knock Kabuto off of her, Shizune knew that he was absolutely right. Everything he said was exactly what she was well aware of, but she just wanted to help her master, that was all. Her resistance against Kabuto's grip and she remained on her hands and knees, shaking with helplessness. Kabuto eased his way off of the black-dressed female and stared down at her sympathetically. If we don't, then you may lose both her, and your own life, and her death would have been in vain, the purple-clad shinobi said in a softer voice. Shizune began shaking with CSP-ling grief as tears leaked down her beautiful face. Damn it. God damn it, she wreathed. Kabuto stared into the action himself and frowned, I know it hurts, but this is the best we can do in a situation like this. It's out of our hands, he uneasily admitted as he watched Tsunade's desperate situation unfold from afar. A tear-stained Tsunade hovered over the peacefully breathing Naruto. Through mind-bending and nearly overwhelming effort, the blonde Sannin was able to save Naruto's life with only seconds to spare. It was only when the constant memories of his promises and his dreams of being Hokage someday bombarded her mind, did she push herself to that extent. She cried for him, begged him not to She didn't want that dream to again. It was through Naruto, did Tsunade's heart finally reopen after many years of cold hard solitude. It was through Naruto, did she ever see her loved one's dreams survive. Her heart melted for this boy, she wanted to help this boy, to care for this boy. His dreams would not so long as she had a say in the matter, that was her promise. Everything that Naruto was signaled the rebirth of Nawaki and Dan, their hopes and dreams, everything. To be Hokage, that is my dream. This time, for the last time, Tsunade thought out loud as she removed her lace and tied it around Naruto's I want that dream to be true. She allowed one last tear to fall upon Naruto's chest as she now felt perfectly serene with the boy. Unfortunately, time was not on her side as she saw a familiar someone approaching them both from the front. Tsunade whipped her head up and saw the relentless, katana-wielding Kuro only a few feet away from them. The moment he saw that he was spotted, the red-haired devil dashed forward with his blade in a king position. Tsunade inwardly gasped when she noticed Kuro's sly sights focused upon Naruto. No! The hazel-eyed woman mentally shouted before acting on nothing but her instinct to move. In a sly flash, blood splattered the area again. Kuro deviously smiled when he saw that his sword wasn't espered through Naruto like he seemingly intended, but Tsunade instead. It espered her right through the center of her chest. The blonde Sannin knelt between Kuro and Naruto, protecting the young genin as he once did for her. She trembled and quaked at the cold and painful feeling of being impaled right through the chest. Kuro slowly removed his sly blade from the wounded kunoichi and continued to smile. Well, you certainly live up to your reputation, don't you, legendary sucker? HMHMHMHMHMHM, Kuro taunted before licking one side of his sword clean of the blood it bathed in, like a moth to a flame. Tsunade found it harder and harder to breathe as her lungs burned for air and her penetrated trachea contracted over and over again. She spewed a large serving of her own blood on the ground. Honestly, you, going through such lengths to protect a genin, the red-coated sadist said, I'm disappointed in you, Tsunade-chan. I won't let you take this boy, Kuro, Tsunade righteously declared. What's that? Kuro questioned in a surprisingly angry tone. Tsunade's eyes darkened. I know what you're after, you freak. I'll never let you hear me. This boy's soul belongs to no one, she shouted. At first, the hulking savage was speechless, but suddenly grew angry before reeling his sword back and gushing it right through Tsunade again, just below the same spot. She wrenched upon impact before gagging and choking on the cold hard steel. You little whore. How dare you? You think it matters what you say? Kuro roared as he resisted every soul-burning urge to twist the blade, but how could she have figured it out so quickly? I was sure to be more careful than that. Choosing not to deliberate on the matter further, Kuro sped the blade out of his mortally wounded enemy. Well, it doesn't matter now. Once I'm finished with business here, it'll only be a matter of time before the evil in the boy's heart takes root, Kuro said before slicing at Tsunade's body. With my tutelage and training, this worthless little genin will fulfill his true destiny by my side as the ultimate warrior. Never, Tsunade yelled. Growling upon hearing that, the vicious Kuro uppercut across his enemy's chest and face with his blade, thus flipping her front first onto the sleeping Naruto. After lying there motionless for a moment, the weak Tsunade slowly curled defensively around Naruto in her restless efforts to protect him from any and all harm, but most of all, from Kuro. I won't let him have you, Naruto. I won't let anything happen to you, she whispered upon Naruto's deaf ears. You hear me, Kuro? If I do nothing else, I will protect this boy. Then you will like the lamb you are, Kuro roared in retort before proceeding to mercilessly hack away at Tsunade's back. The determined Sannin remained exactly where she was and took the bloody punishment with no signs of caving in. She said she would protect the boy, and by God, that's exactly what she was gonna do. She would never be moved or forced out of the way, and that alone was starting to piss Kuro off a little more than usual. He strengthened his slashes to the point where a few chunks of flew off of her. Though screaming and writhing in agony, Tsunade remained where she was to keep Naruto out of harm's way. You useless, SB. Why do you insist on getting in my way? Kuro roared as his slashes steadily became more violent and powerful. Out of random impulse, Tsunade whirled her body around between mid-slash and caught the blade within her palm. The katana cut away at her hand, but she held it tight. From now on, Kuro, I too will bet my life. But for a genin you don't even know. Do I even care? Kuro roared before slicing his sword out of her hand. You would willingly throw your life away for a boy whose future is linked to mine. The blonde woman allowly looked down at Naruto with warm and caring eyes. Linked to yours. Never. This boy, this lowly little genin, will be Hokage someday. He is destined for greatness in a future that has nothing to do with you, Kuro, Tsunade adamantly claimed. Kuro began to quibble with rage. UFOOOOL, he hollered before landing a swift kick to Tsunade's side, thus sending her on her way to the clear other side of Naruto. Upon hearing those last sounds in his state of deep sleep, Naruto's eyes slowly cracked open. His vision was blurred and distorted, but he could barely make out what he was seeing. With his head tilted to the side, the blonde genin saw the downed Tsunade, who sadly returned his stare from mildly afar. His fuzzy hearing picked up her voice, softer and more delicate than he'd grown used to. Naruto, it said, I'm so sorry. Naruto. Upon those words, the blue-eyed kitsune's vision cleared a little more. What he saw next woke him up a little. The evil incarnate marched beside Tsunade with malice sping off of his form. Naruto's eyes slightly widened. Oh, Aba-chan, he whispered. Kuro stepped over to Tsunade's other side just to make sure Naruto could fully see what he was about to do, and he wasted no time. As Tsunade's tears cascaded uncontrollably down the side of her face, she constantly whispered sorrowful apologies to Naruto, and he could catch them perfectly but couldn't figure out why she was doing it. Suddenly a gray boot slammed onto the side of the blonde Sanon's head, making her cry out in pain. Naruto reflexively clinched his teeth together as he was now fully alert. Tsunade stretched her hand out toward Naruto as her mind raced a million thoughts a second. Kuro lifted his katana for the final time. You wretched Sanon, he roared with his katana in the sabing position. Just as she was about to be silenced, however, an overpowering feeling came over her, and much to Kuro's surprise and dismay, her body completely stopped trembling. What in the? Kuro was unable to finish his sentence when Tsunade's foot came crashing up into his face, sending him tumbling down to the ground. The red-haired warrior lifted himself up with a bit of effort and caressed his aching jaw. Ow! Effin stopped her trembling, he cursed before lifting himself to his feet. He saw his mortal enemy pick herself up to her feet and frowned with irritation. How in the hell can you possibly still be standing? He questioned, what have you to prove? The blonde woman didn't answer as she was trying unbelievably hard to remain on her feet. She may have been able to stop her trembling, but she was still in horrendous shape thanks to Kuro's relentless beating and slashing. The wounds on her back were starting to take their toll on the woman as she was starting to shiver because of the heat that was leaving her body. Unable to hold herself up anymore, Tsunade collapsed front first upon the ground totally unconscious. When he saw this, Naruto shot to his hands and knees. Aba-chan, he shouted before dashing to her side. Kuro remained right where he was and crossed his arms uncaringly. He watched Naruto's futile efforts to awaken the fallen Sanon. Ba-chan. Hey, come on, wake up, Naruto desperately called out, trying his damnedest to ignore the grotesque sword slashes on her back. Kuro smirked evilly, go ahead and keep trying, dumbass. She ain't whacking up this time, he said with no sympathy whatsoever. The blonde genin ignored the cruel words and continued his attempts to awaken her. Get up, you old hag. I still need to get you back for flicking me in the face. Kuro scoffed at what he was seeing but raised a curious eyebrow when he heard Shizune yell her master's name from afar. He smiled deviously at the situation and prepared to see how Naruto would react now. As predicted, the young blonde held back his tears as he slowly started to realize that his efforts were futile. You did that for me, didn't you? Naruto questioned, referring to the hideous gashes on her backside. You kept him from attacking me, you wrinkly old bag. Still nothing, not even his infuriating insults got a single stir from her. With his tears threatening to fall, Naruto shook violently and lowered his head in sorrow. Why? How could I let him do this? He's hurt so many people already and now he's got you because I was too weak to do anything to stop him, Naruto sobbed with shame, I let him do this. As if seeing a little Tsunade before him wasn't bad enough, Naruto heard something that made his heart quibble horrendously. That laughter, oh that horrible laughter. That mocking, taunting, irking laughter. Me he 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 he. Alva ha 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 ha. Naruto's nails slowly dug into the earth as that horrid noise rung in his ear and surfed through the corridors of his mind. Mwa ha 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 ha. Ta ha ha a. FWAAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHAHas if he was losing himself within that mocking laughter. Shut up. He shuddered with an unusual darkness about his voice. It didn't matter. Kuro's laughter became louder and more mind-grating. He didn't care who he hurt, in fact he got pleasure out of even the smallest amount of pain that he causes. Through the month, Kuro has tormented innocent people and has made Naruto suffer through a series of tests that caused him and others so much pain. He was responsible for all of that suffering, all of that death, all of that strife. And the mother there was laughing. The evil incarnate continued his laughter, having the time of his life, until the wind picked up at an unusual rate. His laughter immediately stopped as though it never happened before. He focused upon Naruto. Needless to say, he was surprised at what he was seeing. In the place of the crying boy was the form of something different. Another being crawled out of that weak little shell, yet they shared the same form. The spiky blonde bangs that fiercely flapped with the wind shadowed everything upon his forehead but one of his eyes. In that, alone, lied an aura of malice, an aura of terrible wrath, an aura of overwhelming mouse desire. It was no different in looks compared to cubified Naruto's eye, but it was no longer the same. It was consumed with pure hatred. In a matter of moments, a thick red blanket of blood-red energy engulfed the boy, giving him a second transparent body. Kuro welcomed every fiber of hatred and everything else directed toward him with open arms as he genuinely admired the boy's new look. A fox with two tails. Had Kuro finally pushed Naruto too far? Has he finally awakened the true inner demon within the lovable blonde genin? Has Kuro, the very same monster who has caused so much suffering through the entire world, sealed his own fate? Yes. Magnificent. Absolutely, magnificent, Kuro hummed to himself with dark excitement. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.